Which 5 transfers will make the biggest impact for Florida State in 2025, gentlemen? I got my list down. Interested to hear y'all's. And this is biggest impact. Not your favorite guys that they brought in or whatever. It's the biggest impact in this upcoming season. And we want to hear in the comments too. We need to hear in the comments down below what you guys think. But who wants to go first? I can start off with them.
Doing like one at a time, 5 to 1.
Let's go one at a time. We'll move through this smoothly though. I'll start off since I'm over here on this side. We'll go over that way. I'm going to start off with Thomas Castellanos at 1. Kind of easy pick here. He's going to make a massive impact because he is a starting quarterback. But like we've talked about throughout this entire offseason, having someone with a dynamic ability in this offense, I think is going to be big and be refreshing to have back for Mike Norvell, just in general, because he is still going to have a hand in this offense. He's not going to be calling plays on Saturdays, but he's going to play a big hand in building what this offense does. But I think Thomas Castellanos is my number 1.
I would agree with that.
I've also got Castellanos at 1.
Okay. Number 2, this is where it's going to get interesting, I think.
Mine's going to shock people.
Yeah, that's why we're here. We're here for the entertainment business, everybody. Number 2, I'm going James Williams off the edge from Nebraska, the transfer there, rejoining Tony White and Terrence Knighton. I thought that was a really important pickup, and I think it's going to be one of the most impactful landing that Florida State has had in this transfer class for this upcoming season. Florida State's got to get to the quarterback. It was such a letdown last year with Marvin Jones Jr. and Pat Payton, and they've got to do a better job. And for this defense, when you're running 3-3-5, you got to find some guys that can get back there from just a smaller selection of personnel there on the line. And I think the defensive end room is such an important piece for Tony White's defense, and that's why I got James Williams up here at my number 2.
I've got him in my top 5, but not number 2.
Okay.
Shocking number 2. You guys are gonna be like, "What is wrong with you?"
Okay.
Adrian Medley, UCF transfer offensive lineman. Think about it. He's the only offensive lineman coming with Herb Hand and Gus Malzahn. He knows that system. He's going to get these guys caught up to speed, and he's going into his 7th year of eligibility.
Yeah.
Experience, knowledge in the system, get everybody caught up. It's hard to make a bigger impact than that.
Like a Dimitri Emmanuel kind of guy.
I'm also rolling with an offensive lineman at 2. I've got left tackle Gunnar Hansen, the Vanderbilt transfer, just because it's going to be such an important position. And, we saw last year Florida State tried to rely on Darius Washington, and he ended up regressing for whatever reason. And there were times where he was simply unplayable out there, and FSU didn't have very much behind him to step into that role.
Thanks,
either.
Alex Atkins, for that. Appreciate it.
There's going to be a huge spot for Hansen. He's got the experience, 27 career starts at left tackle, over 2,000 snaps in the SEC, good size at 6'5", 330 pounds. He's going to be vital in keeping Castellanos upright on some of those plays where he's not able to evade the defenders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that is a good pick there, because I'm going into my number 3, and I've got Micah Pettis for me at the right tackle position. I want to name both of them. If I could name probably all the offensive linemen, I would have done that. But no, to me, for the right tackle position, it's awfully important. I mean, the product that we've seen at that position specifically, I mean, Dustin, you and I, and the press box, I mean, it's just, I mean, and 2 VZ as well, but just like, it's just so scary to see how awful. I mean, we're talking, like, I think we could have gone out there and had a few reps. Like, that's how badly it was. I mean, Alex Atkins did a garbage job of what he did with both the tackles. I'm just being plain honest. Nobody was developed. Nobody could go out
don't
there.
say just both, because there's more than just 2 people.
You had Robert Scott, who couldn't stay healthy for more than 1 drive of a game. And then you had Jeremiah Byers that was full of hype, but no production. And then you were trying to put in some young guys that you just simply could not develop. And it was a reoccurring basis for the last couple of years. And Mike Norvell kept him on staff, and that's why they had to move on from him. But sorry, but Micah Pettis, he's got to be up there high for me as a tackle coming into this season to protect a guy like Thomas Castellanos, who you would like to see him be able to look downfield long and throw the ball.
Yeah, my number 3, you just mentioned him, James Williams, obviously has familiarity with Pot Roast, Tony White, that whole defense. I would hope he sees more snaps than what he's shown or than what he's played at Nebraska the last 2 years, but he's been super productive, as we talked about when Florida State landed him. He's probably going to be edge rusher number 1 for Florida State this year, so got to throw him up pretty high.
I'm with VZ here. I've also got James Williams at number 3, and to me, this is the probably the top possible breakout candidate as far as the transfers coming in on Florida State's roster. I feel like this kid has a high ceiling that he can continue to reach with more playing time. 29 pressures last season and 188 snaps. It's a 15.4% pressure rate. And, has shown the ability to get after the passer. I think the biggest thing for him is being able to play more on first and second down and contributing against the run. But with that experience in Tony White's defense and playing under Terrence Knighton for the last 2 years, I think that's going to be very beneficial as he comes into a defensive end room that's obviously losing, Patrick Payton, Marvin Jones Jr., and bunch of guys after that as well. Sione is gone, Byron Turner Jr. is gone. Basically everyone in your rotation from last year outside of Aaron Hester no longer on the roster. So having someone with that experience like James Williams to step in, he will be very important.
Yeah, going to be huge as an impactful player. To number 4, I'm going with Luke Pettibon, the Wake Forest center transfer. I'm very high on him because Florida State has moved on. It's just finally ran out of eligibility, but Maurice Smith had held onto that position since I was 6 years old, and Florida State had nobody there to develop. And it's just kind of a theme here as we're seeing with the offensive line, but Florida State needed to find somebody that could come play and be a starter at the center position because they had nobody that they developed as a younger player. So as an impactful player on my top 5, it's Luke Pettibon. He's going to be a glue to this entire offensive line group that is going to be putting out a whole new practically line. We'll see Richie Leonard out there as well. We'll see what the landscape looks like on the interior with Richie Leonard. But Luke Pettibon is going to play a pivotal part and be an impactful player for Florida State, working and protecting Thomas Castellanos and also getting this run game going that Gus Malzahn likes to do and his offensive scheme.
All right, we're being too boring. Give me Squirrel. I think Florida State they've needed a slot receiver. Obviously, there's talent in that room that could be it, but Squirrel White has production at Tennessee if he can get back to his 2023 form, and he has return value. We'll see if he ends up being Florida State's punt returner and or kick returner, but I think that little extra added bonus on special teams kind of gives me the nod for him here at 4.
Yeah, I'm copying the comment that's up on the screen right now, and I'm going with Micah Pettis, Florida State's projected starting right tackle at number 4. Bringing in prolific size at 6'7", 350 pounds, a ton of experience, 29 starts at right tackle, pretty good run blocker, over 2,000 snaps in the SEC. Considering how bad Florida State's offensive tackles were a season ago, to be able to bring in some guys like Gunnar Hansen and Micah Pettis is going to be a potential game changer for Florida State. We'll see how it all works out in the spring. We'll see, with Coach Herb Hand and being able to develop chemistry across the entire starting 5. But man, those 2 additions and, Pettibon very close to cracking my top 5, but not quite in there. Going to be big for Florida State on the outside of that offensive line.
I'm going to finish it off with number 5 here, and I'm going with Deuce Robinson. And I was contemplated there between Squirrel White, there, Beezy. But here's the situation, gentlemen. With Thomas Castellanos, we're going to do a lot of moving around, and it depends too on how the offensive line is looking. But if everything's perfect, then Squirrel White definitely has an advantage of being your top wide receiver guy that Thomas Castellanos is going to want to go to. But I think Castellanos is going to go to Deuce Robinson pretty early on just because of the size of the nature, and if things collapse or if he's rolling out, there's more shots being taken to a guy like Deuce Robinson with his size on those one-on-one matchups that Florida State hadn't had last season, but they utilized in such a good way with Mike Norvell previously with guys like Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. And for a guy that's a dual threat quarterback, just like what we had previously with Jordan Travis, a Deuce Robinson steps up into that role that can definitely be a best friend to a quarterback that plays in that type of style. And it was hard. It was hard for me to kind of pick that over Squirrel White, but I just think it's more of who was going to be a best friend to a quarterback, and I think it's Deuce with that size. It's a lot easier to throw to.
The only reason I didn't put Deuce Robinson in my top five is there's a lot of tall receivers on this team. We already mentioned Jordan Scott, the JUCO guy, and he's just one of a handful of guys that's 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", etc. Square White's kind of an anomaly where they just don't have a player like him that can do a lot of different things there from the slot. My number 5, got to go with the left tackle, Gunnar Hansen. Even if I don't think he's the best of the offensive lineman they brought in, your blindside protector is your most important player on the offensive line besides center, arguably, but got to protect the blind side. I'll take Gunnar Hansen here at my 5. A lot of experience, can play either the left or the right side if Micah Pettis goes down. Solid pickup.
Mm-hmm.
My dog's throwing up over there. He's just throwing up. So I'll make this one quick.
Your dog's throwing up?
Right there, yep. Right there.
Perfect timing here.
Right for number 5.
Does not like your pick with Gunnar Hansen there.
He does not like my number 5 pick. Yeah, it was tough. I was between Deuce and Squirrel White. But I mean, like Austin said, you're losing your most experienced slot wide receiver. Don't have a ton of other guys there that maybe necessarily fit in 100%. And Squirrel White, I mean, he had pretty good production over his 3 years at Tennessee. Produced a little bit more than Deuce Robinson did at USC, and should be a big time playmaker for Florida State out of the gate. But yeah, I'm gonna go deal with this real quick.
I just know it smells foul in there right now.
Oh, it can't be smelling great. Can't be smelling right. Well, VZ, what you and I can do real quick, though, I have an honorable mention. I don't know if maybe you have something in your mind of someone, but I went with Elijah Herring, the Memphis linebacker transfer. Florida State does need some experience in the linebacker room, and he's a really versatile linebacker with good experience as well. And I thought this was a really nice pickup for the Seminoles in that room. He brought in Caleb Lavale as well, but he's going to be someone that's going to be impactful later on in his career. But Elijah Herring is someone that's an immediate impact guy in this 2025 transfer class. You got an honorable mention?
Yeah, I'll stick in that same room and go Stephon Thompson, kind of for the same reason that I talked about Adrian Medley. But Thompson's been with Tony White at Nebraska, was with him at Syracuse, knows the system inside and out, can bring some of these younger guys along. I think that has just as much of an impact, even if he probably doesn't play 700 snaps. He may only get 200 to 300, but he was once viewed as one of the best linebackers in the country. If he can bounce back to his pre-injury form, I think it could have a pretty big impact on this team.
Yep. I like that pick. I like that pick for sure. Need some a good product in the linebacker room, and I do have a lot of confidence. So, VZ, you probably feel the same way with Tony White as being the defensive coordinator, but he's gonna be very hands-on as well with his past experience in the linebacker room too. There with Coach John Papuchis, which at his previous stops too was successful in getting some guys who league there as well. So, really looking forward to seeing how that group evolves and gets better. Moving on from Randy Shannon.